Hey y'all, I'm Mike, the RV inspector and technician.
And I'm Elizabeth. I'm the wife of the RV inspector and technician.
And welcome to our podcast. Well, hello Elizabeth.
Hello, Mike.
It is so good to be back.
So good.
And we are back from the banks of the mighty Kishwaukee River in northern Illinois.
We sure are.
A lot has changed since our last podcast. What has changed, Elizabeth?
We are officially full-timers. Our house is sold. We packed up and we're on the road.
We are. Our first stop was to visit our family in Illinois, and we're here. The house sale, everything flew apart in our lives like
Yes.
really fast in August.
There was nothing and then there was everything.
Right. It's been like we had our conversation with the Titans, and then right after that, the wheels flew off.
Yes. And it's been nonstop since. Not
No.
all bad, just a lot.
Yes. So maybe we should recap, because there are folks that listen and they're like, maybe they want to know what it's like to go sell your house and stuff. So we'd been preparing for months, and then we got an offer. And in our brains, we heard, like, what was it, 45 or 60 days?
Yes.
And we were like, oh, that's so much time.
It's not.
It's not any amount of time at all. And, like, even the preparations we'd been doing, emptying out our house, you were selling like frantic up to like the day we closed on the house.
Well, because there was a lot of things you can't do until the house sells and until you're almost out, including like selling our bed and our mattress and the things that we use for day-to-day living. You can only sell and get rid of so much ahead of time. So a lot of the rush was selling those things, like our son's bed. Trying to take apart his room was one of the last things we did to try and maintain normalcy for him. And
right, like it was probably like the last thing I did was
take apart his bed.
Right, and put it outside for somebody to come get.
But that's a lot of work and time, and it was just like, so we worked till the very end.
And we were serving clients
while
we were doing all this, and we were trying to turn people away. It was so frustrating at the end because we were telling clients no.
Because we didn't think we had time.
Right. We thought we were closing on like a Monday, and so we were like, oh, well, let's not
take any jobs
from like that prior Wednesday or something. And then,
delay.
Okay, cool. Call that person back. Oh, no, we can't take you. And then got another delay. So we're like, all right, let's take a couple clients. And then, actually, we're not going to be delayed. So it was hectic.
It was a roller coaster.
And also we were sort of not prepared for some of the full-time RVer things that we had to do, like get our mail service switched on and like.
Oh my gosh, that was a whole thing that I feel like unless you do it, you don't understand how nitpicky like those documents are. Like you cannot miss a step, and then you have to have it notarized, and then it has to be, you have to have a witness for the notary. Like it was a whole thing.
So if you're thinking about going full-time, the service we use is called Escapees. This is not an ad for them. We are a paid subscriber, and the idea is that they give you a forwarding address, and you can send all your documents there. But it is evidently something that has to be done with some precision, because like Elizabeth said, like we had to get stuff notarized, and we had to set up like a different mailbox first, and it was
just a whole thing,
which we did not have ready in time. So like matter of fact, my uncle Jim texted me yesterday and was like, hey, we've got some mail here for you. I was like, yeah, it's because we didn't have our mailbox set up yet. So you're going to get a couple things, but I promise we did not like forward all of our. But now that the dust from that has settled, we're like now in a good spot where we're like updating our credit cards to the new address. But I wish that we had done that. If we could do it again, I wish that we had set that up in advance.
Yes.
That was like the one kind of hanging chad that we didn't have sorted out.
Yes.
Until after we were on the road. And I'm sure there's some things that are going to get missed, but
that's future our problem.
Right. And we also
not right now.
Like our business has a PO box in town, and so we forwarded so we're fortunate, but I'm certain that PO box is going to be full to the top with mail when we get back.
When we get home.
From all that stuff that we had forwarded.
Yes.
While we were here. So
we're learning as we go, truly.
If you are a creditor, I swear to God, as soon as we get the paper bill, we will take care of you when we get back. But or the tax man. But, we've landed. We're here. And then, Elizabeth, when we got here, we set up our business. How long did it take before we started to get customers?
days, maybe even hours.
Yeah, it did
We were
not.
on the way here. We were on the way here, and I'm driving, and I have the boy in the back and the dog in the back, and I'm trying to do work calls because people wanted inspections as
And
soon as you landed.
we were driving 2 separate cars. So
Yes.
I was driving. I had one of the dogs. I was driving the truck, towing the camper. Elizabeth had our son and the other dog in her car, and Elizabeth is the voice of Cozy Camper on the phone. And even while driving and managing those 2 knuckleheads,
I made it happen.
you were booking inspections.
And I only made one major mistake, which was Peru, Indiana versus Peru, Illinois, which I feel like, given all that I had going on, that's not too terrible of a mistake.
That's
right?
not bad at all. And it's just for everybody knows, so we're staying near a place called DeKalb in Sycamore in Illinois. And about an hour south from here, there's a place called Peru. There's a town, Peru, Illinois.
Yeah.
And somebody called, said they were in Peru. And both of us, I'm not going to let you fall on your sword for this one.
Thank you.
Both of us were like, oh, Peru, I think it's like an hour and a half from where we're
Yeah,
staying.
not bad.
Not a big deal. It's a big fifth wheel. Let's do it. And so we committed to this over the phone. We said we'd do it. And then we sat down that night, pulled the laptop out, and we saw, oh, Peru, Indiana is 4 hours away from where we're staying.
And even then, I think we were still like, it's fine. It's a great inspection, no problem. We didn't realize how far it was until when.
I was driving.
And it was not highway. It
was all country. I was on a dirt road for a while.
That was more of the problem.
Well, and
was we had not yet adjusted our minds to Texas roads and highways and interstates to cornfields and wheat fields and
yeah, you're all on highways and
back
interstates.
roads.
4 hours to Dallas or Houston from Austin. You're just driving in a straight line. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal at all.
But like this drive was cornfields and country roads.
There was a few moments or a few different texts I received from you that said if you lose touch with me, here are my coordinates.
Right. I was like, hey, I'm on highway, whatever. It's a dirt road. I think the boys are coming after me because the roads were like inexplicably closed for no reason. Anyway, and to compound that, I did an inspection near Peru, Illinois. That was a Monday, and then I drove straight from there to stay in a hotel near Peru, Indiana.
So you didn't get there till like 9 o'clock at night?
I got there at 9 o'clock at night. The inspection started like 8 o'clock the next morning.
Super nice folks in Peru, Indiana.
This dealership, I'm going to give them credit. That dealership was Stagecoach RV, and they were sitting there. It was it was unusual in a good way, the experience I had there, because what was cool was they had the RV ready for me. It was in a service bay. So I was undercover. It wasn't even hot. It's Indiana. It was like 90 degrees. Not bad, right? But they had it undercover, and 2 techs were there to meet me. And they were like, hey, we want to see your process so that we can improve our own process. And they just like hung out with me for a big chunk of the day, and they wanted to see how I tested certain things, the order I went in, and then they picked my brain about how I would solve things. And these guys were skilled technicians. They've probably forgotten more about RVs than I may ever know.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's just about process and documentation. And so they saw me like taking 800 photos or taking photos. They're like, well, we don't document any of this, so it's always been like our word versus theirs. Okay, well, if you do this, and I showed them a couple of the tests that I run, and then they were like, oh, yeah, we can totally do this for our customers. So it was great. It was a great experience despite the 8 hours of driving I had to do there and back.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
It was a good for early inspection for the Midwest as well, as our like greeting to the Midwest, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I would say it was a nice way to start things.
Right. It was like, hey, we're here. And then we had talk about, the business side of being a full-time RVer. The first month we were here, we were slammed.
From September 6th or 7th all the way until this week.
Till this week.
So.
And literally, I was doing inspections 4 or 5 days a week.
Yes.
Every week. We were turning people away for repairs because we were booking out.
Just didn't have time.
We were booking out so far in inspections, and somebody that's listening to this, I don't want you to think like, oh, this is because it's Mike and Elizabeth from Cozy Camper and they have this social media platform. Most of the clients we were getting were they were cold. They were new.
They Googled
They
us.
just Googled us, and our marketing was successful.
Yeah.
We did have a few followers that or people that saw us on Instagram or something and
Yes.
sought us out, but the vast majority of those clients were cold from the internet. So, is it possible to take the route that we're taking and be successful? 100%.
For sure.
Don't feel like you need 50,000 followers to do what we do. You can we
Yeah.
could have not. In fact, we didn't make any content for like a month
Right.
when we were moving. So, that's a distinction I think is important for somebody that might be thinking about doing what we do, having a full-time business. And our intent right now is here a month from today, roughly, we should be back in Texas, New Braunfels, which is in between Austin and San Antonio, to run the winter wing of our business. So
Yes.
we're now old and we'll snowbird in Central Texas, and we'll establish our business there. We'll stay there till approximately March,
Right.
and then we'll come back here, and in between we'll travel.
Yes.
So we're going to do a little bit of traveling on the way down this time, and kind of our vision is we'll kind of grow the travel part in between the two segments each year.
Yeah. For this part, our goal was just to get here kind of as quick as possible, right? Like we wanted to start this adventure right away since it already sort of felt like it was delayed. We wanted to get here and get started. We knew we were coming at the end of RV season in this area, so we wanted to make the most of that. But going forward, the idea is we can take our time a little bit.
Right. We were so down to the wire. We were like, because we know camping season kind of winds down here in October,
Yeah.
and it's closed in November. And so we were like, all right, well, it's exactly the slowdown we're experiencing now. So like you said, yeah, we wanted to burn down here.
Right.
On the way back, there's a little time pressure, but it's not like it is here.
Right.
We can't take months and months off work and then keep feeding our family, right? Like we do eventually have to go back to work. So, but that's how we're going to operate in this space for now.
Yes. And let's just take a minute to be like, we did it. We're here.
We did.
We did it.
You did it.
We're doing it.
Yes. Elizabeth, do you I don't miss the house at all. Do you?
I do not. No, I miss my porch swing. I love my porch swing. But I feel like I found a similar piece sitting out here on the bench or on my rocking chair and your rocking chair.
As you can note out here in the background, there's a little wind, and there's a lake right here.
But it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. There's constantly like a little breeze that makes it super nice out here.
Yeah. So while it's not my porch swing that I have come to love at our old house, I'm finding a new piece here.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm saying though, is that like there are things like that I might, kind of miss, but I don't feel compelled to return to a regular house.
No, I agree. I think part of our success with this is that we had the spring as like a test run. When we lived in it full
That's
time,
true.
March, April, and May, I think we learned a lot in that time period. And we were able to then adjust more quickly and smoothly when
That's true.
September came and we hit the road.
Because we found that first, to wind the clock back, we moved into our RV back in like March, and we thought we were going to sell our house quickly, so we moved in and we were like, all right, let's do this. And we did it kind of knee-jerk around spring break, and it was like our RV was still set up to go camping.
Yes.
And not to live in. So things were disorganized, and you were still working, and he was still in school, and
But by May, we had it down pretty well for the most part. There were some things we still knew we needed, but
right.
most of it had been transformed.
And we had learned our lessons,
Yes.
right? So it was like we took so much stuff out of the camper that we were like, well, we're not going to need this when we live in it full time, or this is a luxury that we can't
Right.
afford just because of space, right? So,
Right.
We sold we gave away our toaster oven, bought a smaller one. Just for space's sake, we found a better way to organize our son's toys so that he could get them more easily.
IKEA for the win.
Yeah, we did a lot of purchasing from IKEA.
Again, not a sponsorship in any way, but IKEA for the win if you need lots of boxes
Yes.
and easy storage solutions, because that has been amazing and helpful in our situation.
Right. And that's kind of like the message that I would bring to full-time RVers is be patient with yourself when you're first getting started, because your first iteration is not going to be the right one.
No.
It's definitely not going to be perfect the first time. Be patient with yourself and check in with yourself and ask if things are still working, because a couple of things that we've done or we thought we were going to do did not work. Like we
Right.
were going to get those like dog gates that go around here,
Yeah.
and we were like, I don't want to pack and have to move those things every time we move our camper.
Right.
Such a huge pain, right?
If we ever decide to stay somewhere truly full-time in our RV, that would be a more reasonable addition. But for now, with the packing, even if we're here 2 months, that's still not enough time to have to pack up all these gates and
right, and that's
disassemble. And
just even like during the travel days, the just a little bit of unpacking we have to do like on a travel day. I try to keep it to a minimum, just because like, hey, we've driven all day or however long we've driven, and now I got to like take all this stuff out of the camper, and then tomorrow morning I got to go put it all back in.
Right.
So it was a balancing act between like what was reasonable in that way and what wasn't. I know there are folks out there that have like toy haulers that just like totally fill the toy hauler section.
we do not have that.
We don't have that.
And
So
that's okay.
yeah, we don't have one. Someday maybe we will, but that's not for us right now. But you can 100% do it. Just realize that you're going to learn as you're
Yes.
going. We didn't have a water filter, and when we were at our last park, which was the same city water as our house was,
It was no problem.
there's no problem. I love this RV park. The water here is well water, and it tastes and smells horrible.
Awful. Even the boy is horrified by
Yeah.
the smell, and it twisted our arm
Right.
to have to figure something out.
Yeah.
It was not sustainable, and for no matter how long we decided to stay here, we needed something.
Which was convenient because a company called Blue Tech, they reached out and they were like, here, try our filter out. And it's been great.
It's been awesome so far.
It has been awesome, but like we had to drink from that fire hose for a week, actually for a little bit longer.
A month, to be
Yeah, it was
honest.
about a
It's been the
month.
last month. And it's been fine. For
We
everyone listening, we've not been drinking the well water.
we've been
We have
using
a
a-
filter, like
yeah,
a little pitcher
Brita
in our
filter.
fridge, but we have been showering and doing dishes with the smelly water, and it's not been great. Again, it just wasn't on our radar.
No.
It was something maybe we thought about in passing, but didn't realize the
And
necessity
we
of
had
it.
used those like little inline ones that you screw
Yeah.
onto the hose.
They don't cut it here.
No, and that was kind of, I never really noticed the difference with those, which is why we don't really recommend them on any of our shopping lists. But when we got here, I was like, oh,
Yes, we will need that.
that's why you need one. And then things are different as you travel elsewhere in the country. Like around us are full-timers who are going to stay here for the winter, and you can see them boarding up with the insulation to get their RVs ready for winter. And I was talking to one of our clients here in the park the other day, and he was telling me about how he was going to get ready, and he was asking me for advice, and I was like, sir, academically, I am aware of how to do this.
Yeah.
I was like, I have absolutely no experience of insulating an RV for
Yeah.
winter. I was like, I know what you are supposed to do, but I can't tell you from my experience because it
'Cause
is
we're out of here. As soon as that temperature changes, as soon as it dips,
right.
we're gone.
RVs have wheels.
This is not for us.
That's what you use them for.
It's been beautiful. We've lucked out. I would say that's been the biggest positive of all of this is the weather has been incredible. Incredible, right?
right. It has been. It's been like in the 70s and 80s or better.
Yeah,
Basically,
it's great.
it's only rained 1 day or 2 days.
And that's been nice. We've been like thankful for that. A nice rainy day.
yeah, it was. Well, you still made me work, but
I did. Oh, should we talk about that?
we should. So when we
That's a good, I feel like, story because it shows the difference between Texas cozy camper and Illinois or Midwest
right.
cozy camper.
And so we don't really do RV inspections in inclement weather.
It says it in our
It
agreement.
says it right on the contract.
It sure does.
And that's, and we say, like, hey, we'll do what we can to reschedule. If the weather forces a cancellation, it's one of the only times that we offer a no strings attached refund, as much as I hate it, because nobody has any control over that.
Right.
And, most other circumstances, there's at least a fee for
Something. But with
for
weather, it's out
cancellation.
of everyone's hands.
We have no control. And so we normally, In Texas, what happens?
In Texas, when it rains, you know it's going to rain for weeks beforehand because it's all anyone wants to talk about. Did you hear it's going to rain on Saturday? Did you hear it? The rain is coming. Oh my gosh, it's going to be this much. Stay home, turn around, don't drown, right? We love Texas. Thank you for those warnings, right? But you know it's going to rain. There's no confusion. There's no question. If it's going to rain, they let you know. Here, except for this particular season that we're in, it typically rains all the time.
It rains.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
No one mentions it.
Crop up storm off the lake.
Happens all the time. The weather just says, yep, chance of rain, chance of rain, chance of rain. No, it's nothing. It's just not a big deal. It just happens.
Right.
And I think we just kind of got in the zone and got just, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Well, let me tell you what happened. So I woke up that morning and I heard the sound of rain hitting our bed is like right under our front cap. So I heard the rain hitting the fiberglass and metal of our front cap. 4 a.m. And I was like, it's raining today. Let me check my forecast. 100% chance of rain all day. And so when I went back to sleep, there's nothing I can do about it. I woke up. I said to Elizabeth, hey, did you call the client and let them know that...
Well, first you said, are you awake enough for me to ask you a question?
That's true. Because you have expressed to me that you need...
I just want you to know that's an important part of this. You
It is.
nicely requested that I be alert, and I did.
And I said, did you communicate with the client about the weather? And you
I did
said,
not.
I have
Not a word. I owned it. I said I didn't even mention it. Because even though it's in our agreements, typically if I know it's going to rain in Texas, I say, hey, just so you know, there's a chance of rain on Thursday.
And we'll usually set a rain date.
If we need to reschedule it, we're available Saturday. And here it didn't even occur to me.
Right.
Didn't even occur to me. Like I didn't even hint that it could be a problem. And so Mike reached out.
I reached out.
Very
and so
nice gentleman.
And for clarity's sake, this client had already bought the RV.
In Texas.
In Texas, which we're going to talk about that sale in a minute. Bought that RV in Texas, brought it to home in Wisconsin, and basically the RV flew apart on the way back from...
He bought a lemon.
He did. It was a used motorhome, and he found all these problems, so he had us go out and inspect it. So he already owned it. And my hope was that I could just call him and be like, hey, can I come out on Saturday or Sunday instead? He said, no, I have an appointment. We're going to the chassis mechanic, tomorrow, and then 4 days later it's going to an RV shop. So whatever you find, because they're taking this big trip, they're like, I don't have any time because we're going to go on this big trip. I believe it was their daughter's graduation from college in Arizona, and they were going to take this big dramatic road trip, and so we want to get everything done. So I sucked it up, and I drove to Wisconsin in the pouring rain.
He was very grumpy. I know typically we only see the side of Mike where he's cheerful and saying, good morning, y'all. This was not Mike that morning.
Well, to that point, I actually didn't post a story that morning.
You did not. And I noticed, and I didn't know if anyone else would.
You posted a story to pick up the slack, but...
you did not.
I was...
Oh, I did, because I wanted everyone to know what I had done.
Right, I was furious. Not at you, because I am
Right.
just as capable of checking the weather as you are or anybody else is.
It was just frustrating. It's a long drive. It was a crummy morning. It was just one of those days where there was no let up, here at least. Thankfully, it turned around, right? When you got to Wisconsin,
it rained at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day.
And it was fine,
So I was
though.
able to
It
get
worked
through
out.
most of it, and the client turned out to be a really nice guy.
Yeah.
But the...
It doesn't change it. It's just really, everyone knows, it's really crummy having to work outside when
In
it's
the
a
rain.
really wet, gross day.
So that was
And cold. It was cold.
It was cold.
Which was also something, it was like a double whammy.
I'm not used to cold.
At least in Texas, when it rains, it's typically warm.
Yes.
Not here.
No.
It was a very fall day. Contrary to this day, it was very different than today.
Yes. So that was we pulled it off.
Yes.
And you know what's funny is I think that RV inspection was cursed. So we did the inspection. We worked through it. We include a sample of engine oil.
Oh, yes.
And so I took the engine oil sample, and he didn't really request it or particularly want it, but I was talking to him
it's
about
part
it.
of it, though.
It's part of it. And so I took it, and then when we were pulling the engine oil sample, it just didn't look good. Both of us, and he has some mechanical experience, it was thick and kind of smelled bad, and so we were like, oh, this looks like really gross oil. So we were interested to see what the lab said. And about a week after the inspection, he reached out and he's like, hey, did you ever get the lab or the fluid sample? So I log in. It says we have no control over how fast the lab tests the samples, and so sometimes they do sit there for a week. But
we just have control over how fast
how
we
fast?
get
So
it to
we
the lab.
always overnight it, whatever the fastest shipment available is. And so we logged in, and it said still waiting for the shipment. So I called Elizabeth. I was like, "Hey, can you look into this?" What did UPS say?
UPS was so casual. They were like, "Oh yeah, I see a note here. It got destroyed in transit." And I said, "Excuse me?" And they're like, "Yeah, the product, whatever it was, it says it got destroyed, and they had to disregard it or throw it away, discard it." And I was like, "What? You just threw it away?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, it just says it was destroyed." It's like no call, and it said here that they were going to follow up with you. I was like, "Well,
Well, they never did.
nobody did. Still, nobody has."
Still, nobody has.
They don't.
It's a time sensitive. So
And while I'm sure that was a mess for them to deal with, an oil sample spilling, I can imagine that's not
and we go to
ideal. But I don't care. You can't just throw it away and then not tell us. I mean, I get that you had to throw it away and discard it, but
No, and that's just for clarity's sake. Like we do put it in a little sample container,
they must have smushed it or
right?
something.
Which
like,
we tape shut, and then we wrap in bubble wrap, and then it goes into another container.
yeah,
And so, in order to smash that sample container to the point, you would have to be so reckless or
Yeah.
negligent with it that it must have been really ugly. So yeah, guess what? Motor oil got all over. Actually, no, it wouldn't have leaked out of the container because it's a watertight container. So
Yeah.
it would have just been sloshing around. I don't know what happened.
it's unclear because nobody called
No,
us.
but I have no explanation. But that RV inspection, I think, was cursed.
Yeah.
I think it was cursed from the beginning.
That poor guy, though, that story really like pulled at my heartstrings because part of why we do what we do is to avoid this. Like we try so hard to educate people and tell everyone to get an RV inspection before you buy. We did the same thing when we had the rental business. We
Right.
said rent before you buy because we want so
And we
badly.
still agree with that.
We so want so badly for. Sorry, the wind is going to be really loud here.
It's
but,
brutal.
We just really want to set everyone up for success. So the fact that this guy drove to Houston, went for an RV inspection. Went to go purchase this RV thinking he was getting a really decent RV, and then it turned out to be a total lemon.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so much chassis work, like big stuff, not like, oh, the AC is just not working, or
Yeah,
right?
so
Like,
and they bought it from like a consignment shop in Houston, which I have some experience with.
yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
they the horn didn't work, the lights didn't work, the windshield wipers stopped working.
The windows didn't roll down.
Yeah, the exactly. There's a driver's side window wouldn't go down. When I got there, I found out that the water heater, which is called an aqua-hot system, had been like permanently disabled. So that's going to be an extreme expense to
Yeah.
repair. And none of this was. Oh, and then we found some water intrusion, a little bit of wood rot in one of the slides. It was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And like I said, they were getting ready to go on this big dramatic trip, and they were heartbroken at this this now money pit that's their problem.
Yeah. It was just really disheartening. Seeing if that helps.
Yeah, I thought if I turn
Oh,
this
yeah.
around, it might help a little bit.
But yeah, I don't know, this guy, his intentions were so good and so pure, and this dealer just didn't mention anything to him. And I get it, there's things that are going to get overlooked. There's some things that they're going to hope you don't see. But when it's that number of things, right?
Right, and
You
they're
know?
they're glaring. Like the aquahot, like they could not have completed a PDI with the aquahot in that condition, simply because there was no hot water.
Right.
So
It
It-
just, yeah.
it-
And he's a first-time RV owner. I think that's the part that really bothered me, too, is this is his first experience now.
right.
And what a terrible one. And then the inspection, you did a great job, and I'm sure, and we know he's happy with the inspection, but what came out of the inspection is really disappointing, and then the engine oil samples destroyed. Just, it just makes you really bummed for them.
I do feel bad. I do feel bad for them. And when I was talking to him, it's like, I remember I watched this movie about like when the market collapsed, the 2008 market collapse, and like there's somebody like telling the, whatever trader is like, hey, you're selling junk, and the guy's like, no, we're selling these products to willing buyers at fair market value. And when I think about it like that, I'm like, most people don't know what they're buying.
Right.
And they're relying on you to kind of tell them. And so we would never tell anyone to not buy an RV. Like we
Right.
would never say, don't get in the RV life. We love it.
Right.
And we've had a couple of hickeys and a couple of headaches with ours.
Hiccups?
No, hickeys. Yeah,
Hickeys?
we've had a couple of things get broken.
Hiccups is what he means.
Don't speak for me,
It's not
Elizabeth.
a hickey.
A hickey is when there's a physical deformity on the RV, like when you have a hickey. But it's not a big deal because it'll go away.
I think it's a hiccup.
I'm
I've never heard someone refer to this as a hickey.
Okay, look. You see that spot on the wall over there? That's a hickey. When our propane broke the other night, that was a hiccup.
I don't know.
You
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, you regulate your speech the way that you want to talk, and I will talk about how I want to talk.
You just say things that really I question. I need to make sure you're speaking correctly.
I said. Yeah, it was actually a dealer in Austin that taught me that. Like, oh, I've got a couple of hickeys, and I was like, I'm going to use that from now on. Anyway, but what I was saying is that like, hey man, we encourage you to go buy an RV. We think they're great. What stinks on the other side is that the dealers who are selling you the thing encourage you to work against your own best interest and not get an inspection for your own due diligence. And that to me is really, really icky. I do understand why they do it, but it's like, I really wish the industry would change and I was thinking about this, Elizabeth. I was using big brain and big head time. And I was like, if I had an RV dealership, if you were bringing me something on trade, it would fall into one of two categories. I would either make you bring me a seller's inspection, so I knew what I was bringing in on trade, or I would be selling this unit hardcore as is, and I would tell the sellers, we're not going to touch it.
But just know we're not touching it.
Just know we're not going to touch it.
Seems reasonable.
It's in whatever condition it's in. We're going to call it the dog pound.
Yeah.
If we'll sell them happily to you.
But be clear.
But be clear. If you want to bring an inspector in to look at something that's in the dog pound, that's cool. We can negotiate whatever they find. But just know we are making no guarantee about the quality of the RVs in the dog pound. But over here we have, the RVs that have they had a seller's inspection. Here it is. We encourage you to get your own inspection too.
Yeah.
To verify before you buy it, and then once again we can negotiate. That way everybody's happy.
Yeah.
If you just and I think what happens is that dealers, they oversell their own pre-delivery inspection.
Yes.
On the one hand, and then they want you to be a repair customer. So it's kind of not in their interest at any point.
Which, if anyone who's ever owned an RV knows that no matter what, you're going to have a repair customer out of RVs, right? Like, no matter what condition the RV is in, it's going to require repairs.
And if you just treat somebody right, they're going to come back to you forever.
Yes.
So we had, just a little RV business owner story. We had a customer reach out to us here. They were having an electrical issue. I went out and I fixed an electrical problem. Right when I was there was no 12-volt power. When I left, I'd replaced a couple of circuit breakers. 12-volt power was restored. And when he called me like a week later, he's like, hey, I moved it. A similar but different problem has now occurred, right? So I went back out there and I re-diagnosed everything again. I made the electrical work again, and I said, hey, here's what I want you to do before you go on your camping trip. I want you to hook this thing up to your car, drive it around, and see if we can get this problem to reoccur. I'm like, because I was here, I was like, what I found only took me 30 seconds to fix. I'm like, I feel like there's an underlying issue here, but I could not find it. And the issue was in the field, I'm not going to unbuild the underbelly of an RV or take a roof off or open walls. Just in the scope of our business, others may, but we don't. We're largely a one-person show. And anyway, he took it out on the road. The problem reoccurred, and he called me back, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry that happened. This is what I suspect to be the issue. I think you need to take down that underbelly or run new wires. I was like, but we're not a good fit for that operation, just based on our current position. So I'm going to tear up the check you gave me. I'm not going to charge you anything for this time because I wasn't really in any parts. I was like, I'm not going to charge you anything for the time I've already done. My only ask is that the next time you have a problem, if it is within our wheelhouse, I want you to call us. And he said, he's like, you're my RV repair guy forever.
Aww.
He's like, I trust you forever. He's like, the integrity that you're demonstrating by telling me this isn't for me and you need to go to a shop to fix this is huge.
Yeah.
And that you didn't take my money.
I agree.
And so if more dealerships just adopted that mentality, like, hey, maybe we're going to take a hit today, but we're going to get a customer forever.
Yes.
Instead of just trying to take this right now,
Mm-hmm.
zero-sum game, I think there would be a lot more trust
I agree.
in the RV industry. It's all about expectation setting, and right now there's some sketchy dudes out there.
Yeah, and we have another pending customer, or hopefully. I won't go into the details of the what do you call it, the maker
Right.
of the RV, but they're dealing with a couple of years ago now. I think they said they bought in 2022,
22.
and
It's gone back to the factory in Elkhart,
yeah,
and they basically have never had this, and they're approaching litigation, and they're wanting someone to come in and evaluate the whole entire RV
Mm-hmm.
once, and then go back after repairs are made.
Because so they bought the RV in 2022, and they found all of these issues, and then the dealer wasn't fixing them, and the what do you call it, the maker, what do you call that? Manufacturer, thank you, wasn't fixing them, and then they finally said, okay, we'll fix them. But now obviously these customers are very weary and don't believe them, which
they're 2 years into an RV loan that they've never used.
Just so frustrating, and it's like not everyone even has the wherewithal or the even ability to get it this far down the line back to the manufacturer in Elkhart, but like they have, but it's just so unfortunate that it's come to that. You know?
Like why?
Like why can't we just make a quality product, and then if we don't, that's okay. How about we just try and fix it?
If something, yeah, right. Like no one is capable of getting it perfect 100% of the time. We haven't. We don't.
Right.
We haven't. We've made mistakes. These things happen, but if once again, if there was just some expectation management,
Mm-hmm.
and then I saw that reel, we shared it on our social media, where the young woman had bought an RV
Mm-hmm.
from a Camping World location and basically never got to use it, brought it back to Camping World to have them fix stuff, and she said, oh, they're waiting for the manufacturer. Then somebody called her, said, oh, the manufacturer sent us the parts. So she drove the RV there. The service
Mm-hmm.
advisor there was like, no one's even talked to the manufacturer yet. There's no parts here for this.
Mm.
So she said, that's fine. I'm just going to drop it off. So they dropped it off. And then something else happened, and they sent her pictures of her RV. And in those pictures of the RV was missing components that had nothing to do with the repair order, like her water heater was gone or something, and she wasn't there for anything related to her plumbing.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, with stories like that abound in the industry, it's just screaming for some thought leader to come in and just change that,
Yeah.
or the industry faces extinction.
Yeah.
And that's why, dealers, they hate what we're trying to do, but, all we're trying to do is just help people. We have, our motto is worry-free camping. We don't really worry about anything in our RV, right? We're blessed to have me here, but, if we can just do better, then we don't have to worry about it. But dealers, it seems like largely they don't want it.
Yeah. And we get a lot of calls too for repairs where they're like, I just really don't want to take it to the dealer. Please come to us. We don't want to take it to the dealer.
Yes.
Don't make us take it to the dealer. Like, I'm sorry, we can't do chassis work yet.
Right.
Like, we're just not equipped.
We're just not equipped to do.
But
But it's like, imagine any other industry where, imagine if your car took 6 months to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if, it took 6 months. If we have a storm and your roof gets damaged, how long after that storm do you see roofers on roofs in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Like a week later.
Right.
And then everybody
There's
in the
an urgency.
There's an urgency, right? In what universe is it acceptable that we can drop something off, say that it needs repairs, and I'm paying the note for it the whole
Mm-hmm.
time, and it takes 6 months?
Yeah.
What other if you could show me another product on this earth where that
Yeah.
is acceptable, I don't know what it is. And so all of that to say that, this guy that we did the inspection for, he's now a fan of ours,
Mm-hmm.
but he will hate that dealership and
Forever.
never trust another dealer. And anyone who ever talks to him is going to say what a bunch of turds that dealership
And
was.
they're a chain,
They
which
are,
I think might hurt them more than if it was just a one-off, RV dealer, right? Because the chances of someone going to that one are slim. But when you have a chain, it makes the whole chain look bad.
it is a multiple location consignment dealership largely operating in the state of Texas. So for those of you doing your...
And we've had bad experiences with this chain in different location than he purchased at, but same
But we've had bad experience at that location.
for our own personal
That is correct.
We went looking a while back. In the early days of this plan, we went to go check out.
I forgot about that.
We went to go check out some plans, floor plans, right, that we just wanted to see in person, and I'm glad we did. And you instantly were like, tell me about this one. And they were like, oh, no, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, there was all this damage.
No, but he didn't realize who you were, maybe, or
right, yeah.
I don't know.
He didn't know what we were doing. And so what I found was they had concealed a ton of rust on the inside.
That's right.
And it wasn't like, it's fine to spray, a rust inhibitor on the underside of an RV. Like if you live in an area with salt or you're by the coast, by all means, use a rust inhibitor on it. And it's just like a black spray paint. What they did, though, was it was obvious this RV had spent a lot of time on the coast of Texas. And there was advanced, crusty rust on the bottom of this RV. So, I started to, pick at it, and I was pulling, chunks of rust off the side of this RV, which is, only 2 or 3 years old.
Right.
And I was like, oh, hey, what's going on with this? Oh, nothing. We just put a rust inhibitor on it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And the refrigerator had been obviously had been replaced, but not with the right one. There was a bunch of stuff going on, and they were adamant that this RV was above board. And then as I was walking around, there was a number. Remember there was a number hot glued to the front. It was like an address number. It was a rental unit.
That's right.
And I specifically asked if this RV had been used in a rental, and then between that and there was a sticker somewhere inside. I found
yes, I remember now,
that rental company's RV rental company's Facebook page, and I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
I was like, they're based in Galveston. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And there was that specific RV on a beach in Galveston, and I was like, okay, cool. So this dude just straight up lied to my face.
And to go back to what you said, though, if they would have just been honest with you and said, yes, this probably was on the coast for a long time. Yes, there's rust. Yes, it was a rental. Just disclose that.
But they were selling that one and the exact same floor plan, which the other one was in much better shape.
Yes.
For the same price.
Exactly. There has to be a give.
Right. Hey, maybe I want to buy it because I'm an RV technician and
you
I'm
can
up
fix
for the
it,
challenge,
or
right? Maybe I'm cool with it, but guess you got to give it to me for $10,000 off now, right? No, instead what they try to do is conceal it from me and sneak it under the radar, and then they sell a warranty, which
convenient.
It's very convenient that they sell a warranty, and the warranty they sell is actually not bad. A cancer in the RV industry right now is the selling of financial products after the sale, and I think people don't know how insidious that is, because the dealers, depending on who you ask, and I've never worked for a dealership or a chain, this is just what people tell me, they make as much or more money selling financial products and warranties as they do on the sale of the RV.
I believe it.
Because if you're selling an RV at 10% interest on a 120-month note, you're basically making twice that RV in interest.
Right.
Right? And the dealer gets a cut of that, and so does the salesman. So it's in their interest to sell you these products at long interest rates because they get a cut. It's in their interest to sell you warranty products that are exclusionary because they make money from it.
Yeah.
And it creates this really wicked counter incentive that to providing quality and good customer service, because once you've signed and you have that financing product, it's done, right? They've made their money and they can move on, and it's down to that RV dealership owner's personal integrity, how they want to conduct their business. And there are definitely some that do really well.
Yeah.
That do have integrity. We've encountered a couple here. Actually, basically every dealer I've gone to here, except for one, has been like, hey, thanks so much for being here. If they're cool with it, give us a copy of the report. We've already done our PDI, but a second one is going to be awesome.
And they've been in decent condition.
They've every RV.
Except the one you're talking about.
But all the ones. There was one dealer I went to in Wisconsin that the thing was a dog, but everything else here, I found some defects, but the dealer was like, oh, okay, cool, make me a list. Yeah. We'll fix it. Thanks so much.
Because it's reasonable.
Or, hey, we're not going to fix it, but we're happy to talk to the, and oh, okay. It's that Midwestern politeness, I suppose, coming out, and I was like, all right, cool. That makes me feel a lot better than some, this attitude that, and what was crazy about that one dealer that showed us that, it was not the first time I'd been there. I actually went there to inspect for another RV. I'd met the seller, and I was like, hey, by the way, we're looking for this. Can we set up a time? I assume they knew who I was. I mean, it seemed like they didn't, but I'm like, who who are you talking
Who
to?
you trying to
Who are you talking
pull
to
this
right
over?
now?
Yeah.
And, you know,
Not even like you as like a social media person, just you as like an inspector, someone who knows RVs.
Right.
And a technician.
and we've been
That's
working.
it. Just you as just someone who's very, very competent with RVs. Like
I don't mean like, do you know who we are?
no.
I mean
That's
like,
why I
hey,
just want to clarify.
right,
It's
like,
just you as a person who has experience.
I'm in an RV business.
Yeah,
and I think
like-
at that time our social media presence was very small.
It doesn't even
anyway.
really matter, yeah,
But,
because
like-
that's not we weren't trying to pull that card.
No, but then like on the flip side, we've been talking about buying another RV,
Mm-hmm.
which we keep delaying. But we've been working with a specific salesman at a dealer in San Antonio, and his first interaction with me
Mm-hmm.
was, he was like, "You know more than me about this RV."
Yeah.
He was like, "If you have questions about the financing, or you want me to call Brinkley and get you an
Mhm.
answer about something, I'll do it." He's like, "But I'm not going to try and tell you about the features of this RV,
And-
because you know more than." Remember we did like that soft inspection on
Mhm.
it, and he was like, "Oh, what?" And I was like,
You were explaining some things to him.
I was showing him some things.
and that's okay. Like no
There's-
one expects you to be a master at all of this, you
No,
know?
no, and that's
We just like honesty. I think that goes a long way. And the I don't know. I wish people weren't so afraid to say, I don't know, let me look into it. Let me ask. Like what's the shame of that?
it's
You're all about that if you don't know.
as
Just the other night you were watching like YouTube videos trying to figure out a problem. I was
Right.
listening to you and I was like, "Oh, he's problem solving.
yeah.
He must need more information on this."
Right.
And you were like searching for knowledge. Like what's wrong with that?
There's no, I mean
I'd rather you do that than go and just pretend like you know what you're doing.
well, there's an upgrade project that I'm saving. We're not going to get into specifics of, but I've been thinking about doing to our RV. And it's one of these spaces where I'm like, well, academically, I know how this works. I'm like, I'm wondering if anyone has done this specific thing, and I can learn a little bit from it. And there's no shame in that. Even if I do
No.
something simple, like we just installed this door latch the other day, which is 6 screws. I watched some YouTube videos. I'd never installed this new door latch. I just watched a couple of YouTube videos to see if there's any pitfalls or anything I need to look out for.
Yeah.
And I did. I made an installation mistake that cost me like 20 minutes, which I only figured out because I went back and like super closely watched the YouTube video.
Yeah.
And like I'm supposed to be like this master technician inspector dude. Like, no, we all have things to learn.
Yeah.
And, you know, as Mr. Data said, the beginning of wisdom is I don't know.
It wouldn't be a podcast without a Star Trek
We have
quote.
to make a Star Trek reference every time.
Every podcast.
No, and so that's all I want to
Yeah.
say is just like, hey man, if you don't know about this RV, say you don't know. If the thing's a dog or you think it might be, cool. If you have, and a lot of dealers, the salesman genuinely doesn't know about the condition of the RV.
Mhm.
They just have an asset that they're trying to sell.
Right.
Like, you know, so I don't think that anybody's like twirling their mustache like, that RV has water damage. There's very few people. It's a willful ignorance.
Yeah.
So, you know, that one at the dealer that who shall not be named in Wisconsin, you know, what was it? I was there for 5 minutes and I was like, water damage, water damage. But the
Yeah.
salesman said he didn't know anything about it. And then like even when I was standing there with the service manager, we were both standing inside. We were both looking at the same thing. And I looked at him. I'm like, have you guys done your PDI yet? He said, no. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think so. He's like, yeah, I see it too.
Bet you wish you would have.
Right? And it's like, so, you know, you do the inspection, and maybe people have bought RVs knowingly with water damage.
Yeah.
But that salesman just did not know or said he didn't know that
Yeah.
it was there. But
I don't know if this is the same one, but it just reminds me. It's a super quick story. Like this was, we like to categorize our clients in a good way, but right, like we can tell the ones that are a little more price conscious, which is very reasonable. And then we have the ones that know they want it, they're good with whatever the cost, and then there's the ones who don't want to pay it, but they want it, so they're going to do it. There's
Right.
just different categories. And this friend, this customer was very hesitant, had a lot of questions about why we charge so much, what's included, what happens if this, and this, like, which is all reasonable.
And we're happy to answer those questions.
Absolutely.
Because our industry is so new.
Yes, exactly. That's why I said there's no negative intent.
No.
When we do these categorizing, you just can't help but do it. They just sort of naturally fall into it. And he was very hesitant, and he ultimately though went with it. He ultimately said, you know what, sign me up. I'm hopeful you find nothing, and I can go on this trip actually this week. And that I don't remember if it was the same one, but
Right. It is.
So water damage, and basically a lot of things that were not really able to be fixed. And what did he say to you?
Which part?
At the end, he was like, I'm hoping to find another RV and I'm going to
Right,
have
he's
you
gonna have
inspect
us
it.
inspect it.
And that to me is huge, because that was like not a non-believer, but someone who really truly questioned, like, oh, why do I need to pay this? Why do
Right.
I need to do this? And then it worked out that,
So, and like to kind of put
you
this
know,
in literal dollars, right? So the RV that they were shopping for was a used motorhome. It was like $40,000.
which is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And then our inspection, let's just say for the sake of argument, was $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, wow, that's kind of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then remember they asked, they're like, well, hey, what if the generator a year from now stops working? And we were like,
They
well,
did
we're going to
ask that.
test the generator and we'll tell you what condition it's in. A lot of times you just recommend service, but realistically, all we can do is tell you about how the generator is today. And while I was doing the inspection, the generator spectacularly failed and seized up.
Yeah.
Because it had original motor oil and it had never been serviced. And then there's the water damage. So when I was talking to him at the end, I was like, hey, you're trying to buy this $40,000 RV, $20,000 of damage on it. And then he was, he went from somebody that was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is $1,000 to, hey, I just spent $1,000 and saved $20,000
Yes.
because of it. So.
And to me, that's why we do this. We do this
Right.
for that reason.
Correct. Like the person we were describing earlier in Wisconsin that has the sabotaged for some reason aqua that's if they need to replace it, that's a $10,000 repair.
Just that.
Right. And if
That's not everything else.
Right. That before the water damage. So if we had caught that before, if we had done the inspection in Texas and we were still there
Yeah.
when he bought it, we would have caught all of those
that.
things, and we would have saved all of that heartache.
And he even said that. He said he learned the hard way. He will
Right.
never not get an inspection. He didn't say necessarily us, but he said if I don't know if he's ever going to buy another RV
No.
again, but he said if he does, he will absolutely get an inspection. And
Right.
I wish we could get to a point where we just avoid this learning by doing. Like let's not learn the hard way. I wish we
Well,
could
that's-
get the word out there. Like just do it. It's worth it. Not even us. Just any inspector that you find, any high quality inspector
Right.
can do.
Right. And then
you
we've
know.
had to refer. We just had somebody reach out to us on social media, ask if we can come back to Austin. I'm like, well, we are, but not till November. And so we've had to refer it out. And I make no claim that I'm the best inspector. I never will say that Cozy Camper is the best, because there are some absolutely tremendous RV inspectors out there.
Yes.
There's a master inspector not 40 miles from here who's been doing this forever. Just if you hire one, you're not going to taking the chance on the inspector is not going to hurt you in the way that taking a chance on the dealership.
Right, on not
is.
getting an inspection and trusting the PDI will
Correct.
hurt you. That's a good point.
It is important to shake out. You want to make sure that who you're hiring is qualified and that they have some good reviews and some background.
Honestly, we should probably do a whole podcast on that.
Yes,
like how to find a good inspector.
We should, but like it's I mean, we're totally biased, but it is totally worth it. You're going to save.
Absolutely.
You're probably going to save so much money. And I think the argument that I was trying to get at is, so you have the RV inspector, which we have a code of ethics, and integrity is like the most important thing in this profession. And then you have a industry dealership chain where integrity is the least important thing. And so until that changes, the two parties are always going to be on a collision course until they figure out this integrity question at the dealership level. And I see, I follow on LinkedIn the CEOs from all these chains. I see the dude from Blue Compass, talking about integrity. I see CEO Marcus from Camping World talking about it. Like, they're saying these things, and then a lot of these locations, you get to individual ones, and it's just all gone.
Right. Not all of them.
Not all of them.
But unfortunately enough that we're having this conversation.
And I'm even. This is a true story. I don't know that I told you about it. So I had another inspector in the Austin area reach out and said, "Hey, what's going on with this dealership chain in our area?"
Yes.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I had a client. They told the client they don't allow RV inspectors." And I was like, "Well, I was just personally there. I know I know the sales manager, right? Like, we've gotten to know each other. I've done probably a dozen or more inspections there, and they've been great." So then he sent me a screenshot of the email of the person I'm describing saying that they don't do RV inspections anymore. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. But we were leaving, and I was like, hey, we will deal with this when we come back to Austin area. It's not a problem we can deal with right now. 2 weeks ago, somebody reached out to us and was like, hey, can you come to Austin? We said no. They're another influencer type person on
Mhm.
social media, and they were like, "Hey, can you come back?" I said, "No, we'll be gone." Who are you working with? They're looking at that dealership. I said, "Who are you working with?" They said, "That person, the
Oh,
same one,
jeez.
who I had personally worked with, and then had told somebody else." And I said, "All right, well, just understand this is the thing." I gave them a list of inspectors in the area that they could reach out to in our absence.
Yeah.
And then they came back and said, "Oh yeah, they said it was no problem. They can have an inspector." So it's like, what is the metric
Yeah.
that I'm like, I had previously perceived this person to be of high integrity,
Mhm.
but it seems like that changed, and
Yeah.
then it came back. So like, what do they have different metric at the beginning of the month versus the end of the month?
Right.
If sales are good, if sales are bad, like what is the metric that governs the integrity share?
I would love to know it.
I don't know
Let
what
me
it
know if you
is.
find out the secret.
I would love to know. And we've been having some dealership employees come into our comments,
Mhm.
and they get all torqued out of shape when we reveal something that we found on an RV.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's a picture of it, dude. like,
How you gonna argue?
it's a picture of it. It's a video. It did occur.
Yeah.
I'm not speculating wildly.
I like to tell the clients when I'm talking to them on the phone. I don't know if you do this when you're doing your pitch, like when you're letting them know what's included. I like to say, like when Mike finds something, he documents to the fullest extent possible, so that you can be like, here is a video, here is a very clear picture. I was like, sometimes depending on how much they need to know, I'm like, he circles it and labels it for you so that you can see the exact concern.
Right.
And I think that's really important to be like, we make it clear as day.
And we also, it's important.
And then they still argue.
Right.
But
Well, that's the thing. Like, so we don't make. I don't make uninformed accusations of an RV. So there was
Right.
one a couple of weeks ago where it was
Yeah.
like there was a visible crack in the frame,
Mhm.
and I said in the report there is a visible crack in the frame. We recommend further evaluation by frame specialist or welder, right? Because that's all I see is a crack.
Right.
I don't know if it's a surface crack. I don't know if it's powder coat. That's beyond the scope of the inspection. I see that there's a crack. So we posted a video about that.
Mhm.
And all these people are commenting in there, "That's not really a crack." Some
Oh my
people are saying,
gosh.
one guy, if you want to get into the weeds, the correct answer is that it's a known problem with that manufacturer. If you call them, they will send you a plate. You have a welder welded on to reinforce
Yeah.
it. That's the correct answer. But you had all these uninformed takes on social media that are like, "No, that's just a damage to the powder coating," or "That's this. I deburred it and I just drilled it out and I painted it." That's not for me to decide.
No.
That's for them. Just telling you should ask a welder
To
or the manufacturer
to know for sure.
to know for sure.
But here's a photo to prove
Right.
like that it does exist.
Exactly. So like, here's a picture of a crack in a frame.
And the water damage, right? You have the camera that takes the pictures or the heat.
I have a moisture meter and an infrared
and it's
camera.
like this is it. Like here you go.
Like, I see
it's
damage.
so clear.
And it's like, I try to make it as unassailable as
Yes.
possible, right? And I had a career in law enforcement. That's what you try to do.
Right.
And where I learned it was that you don't say someone appeared nervous, because what I think appears nervous means might be different than you. And so what you say is the person was talking very quickly and they were changing their story and they began to sweat, because those are all definable things that maybe you can see on a body camera or on a recording, right? But you can't capture nervousness.
Right.
So I can't say like, "Hey, the frame is bad." What I can say is there's a crack in it.
Yeah.
There's visible rust on it. Like, I'm not going to say, "Oh, it's rusted through." No, there's just visible rust on it.
So that you need to investigate it
Right.
more
So
thoroughly.
have
yeah.
a technician get you a quote to fix this.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. I would love it. We just had a home inspection, right?
We did.
He came out. He told us, he gave them a list. They gave it to us. It took us like a week. We fixed every single thing on the list. And then everybody was happy. It cost us like $1,500. Actually, no, it was more because the air conditioner totally went out. But it would have been $1,500. Turned out to be like $3,000
Yes.
because the AC died at the exact same
true.
time, unrelated. But it was all done, and we knew it
Yes.
was coming. That's part of the home buying process.
Yes. Well, on that note, I think we need to wrap this one up.
I do want to wrap it up. We're at just over an hour right
Yeah.
now. Elizabeth Murphy, we are 2 months into full-time. I want to ask this last question.
Okay.
We're 2 months into full-time RV living. What do you think is if someone were to say to you, "Hey, I see what you're doing. I want to do it too," what would you tell them?
Make it happen. I would say start making a plan. Talk about it. We talked about it for a very, very, very long time before I was on board with it. So much talking about it that when we made the decision, I felt really confident. So start talking about it. Figure it out. What steps do you need to take? Don't even take any of the steps. Just start talking about it.
Write it down.
Make a plan. We made it. We wrote it down.
We made
It's crazy. And at the time, I love you. At the time, I was rolling my eyes, being like, "This is so stupid. Why are we writing this
And
down?
just so-
This doesn't make me feel better." But it made you feel better, and therefore, I'm happy to do it. But then, fast forward to once
Right. And just for
we actually did some of the things, I was like, "Huh."
for clarity's sake, it was a piece of like tan construction paper
I
that our son.
was a teacher.
Yeah, I think it was our son's though. Like we wrote it out and it was like, "Hey, here's today's date. These are the steps we want to take."
Like
I was gonna-
Elizabeth changed jobs, or Elizabeth changed positions within the job first.
Right.
Because we needed to buy me some time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I needed to be happier, though. I needed to figure out something.
Right.
Like,
it was like sell house, make X number of dollars, pay this off.
do this, do that.
Right.
And it was like, to me, I was like, why are we like, this is so stupid.
But then we started
like,
to cross things off.
yeah.
Right. We were like, "Oh, we did that. We did this." And that was actually, it was funny because we wrote that in 2022 or 23
Mm-hmm.
and
We said by September
it said
2024.
September 1, 2024, you're supporting the business, we're full-time RVers.
Yeah.
And we made it to the day.
And again, at the time in my head, I was like, this isn't going to happen. We're not doing this. Like, I wanted to believe that we were, but in my head, I was like, oh, no, this isn't going to happen. But here we are.
Here
It
we
can be
are.
done. It's uncomfortable. It's hard conversations. It's a lot. But if you think this is something that you want to do, and even if not this, whatever the thing is that you want to do, just talk about it. Lay it all out there. All the what ifs, all of it. The good, the bad,
And if I agree, and my closing thought on that is, I agree. If you want to do something, do it. If you want to be a full-time RVer, it does help to have a handsome and intelligent RV technician husband to help you through that process.
and a beautiful supporting partner to do
That's
it
right.
with.
But we're going to continue to run our business because I was born handsome instead of rich. That's it for us, y'all. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe.
I think we're supposed to say that.
It feels so cheesy to
does.
do it.
But like and subscribe and share.
Later, y'all.
Bye.